Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the world of coins, collectibles, and they're the 2001 Canadian 5-cent coin, commonly referred to as the nickel, holds an iconic place in modern Canadian numismatics and encapsulates a rich blend of national pride, royal heritage, and symbolic artistry. On the obverse side of the coin, the elegant effigy of Queen Elizabeth II faces right, as is tradition, wearing a tiara, a classic portrait designed by Dora de Pederhunt, the first Canadian artist to sculpt the Queen's image for coinage. Around her profile, the Latin inscription Elizabeth Tudi G. Regina appears, which stands for Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, echoing Canada's constitutional monarchy and its historical ties to the British Crown. This side of the coin reflects not only authority and continuity, but also a broader philosophical heritage, harmonized through the idealistic triad often associated with liberty, egalite, fraternite, a motto born from the French Revolution but resonant across global democracies, expressing the inherent rights to freedom, equality, and fraternity foundational to both French and Canadian values, especially in Quebec. Turning to the reverse, the coin features the unmistakable beaver motif, a symbol of industriousness, persistence, and Canadian natural heritage. Designed originally by George Kruger Gray in 1937, the image portrays a beaver resting atop a rock in flowing water, with inscriptions above and below, 5 cents at the top and Canada 2 below. Flanking the design on both sides is a small maple leaf, a national emblem of unity and sacrifice, often seen on the Canadian flag. The coin's edge is smooth, and its composition in 2001 marked a shift toward more cost-efficient materials. The Royal Canadian Mint transitioned the coin to 94.5% steel, with only traces of nickel and copper plating. In response to rising metal prices, this specific year 2001 was not marked by any special commemorative design. Yet it remains part of a pivotal era in Canadian minting history. Over 117 million of these nickels were minted, with the majority produced at the Winnipeg Mint facility. Identifiable by the absence of a mint mark, only collector coins bear the P or W mark in some years. The coin weighs approximately 3.95 grams, has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters and a thickness of about 1.76 millimeters. While the Canadian nickel no longer contains actual nickel since the early 1980s due to cost constraints, the term nickel lives on colloquially. It remains an enduring coin in Canadian daily commerce. Yet for collectors, even regular issue years like 2001 can be valuable if found in high-grade uncirculated condition MS65 or higher. Proof-like sets, or with die errors such as doubling, off-centering, or planchet flaws, adding a philosophical and artistic lens. We can see this coin also through the metaphor of Republic and Lager Fool, a nod to French style, coinage, and revolutionary artistry. While Canada is not a republic, its coins can reflect a republican spirit in their celebration of public symbolism over monarchical imagery alone. Lager Fool, referring to French-coined designer Laurent Lager Fool, evokes a sense of minimalist, dignified republican artistry where symbols speak louder than crowns, making this comparison apt when examining the artistic subtlety and nation-centric symbolism of the Canadian beaver, maple leaf, and bilingual identity. Thus, the 2001 5-cent Canadian coin is not merely a medium of exchange. It is a compact narrative of nationhood, monarchy, industrial legacy, and the democratic ideals that shape the Canadian conscience, carrying messages both minted in metal and etched in meaning. From the crown to the beaver, from the steel core to the symbolic edge, every element of this small coin tells a profound story of Canada's place in both history and modern civilization. The next up top to the 2016 Canadian 5-cent coin stands as a small yet rich artifact of Canadian heritage, embodying over a century of historical continuity, monarchical allegiance, symbolic fauna, and national identity, all encapsulated in a modest nickel alloy composition. At the forefront of its reverse is the classic image of the beaver, long used on the Canadian 5-cent coin since 1937, representing hard work, perseverance, and the industrious spirit of Canada. The beaver rests atop a log in a peaceful pose, surrounded by water lines, symbolizing both the natural Canadian wilderness and its role in the fur trade era, which was foundational to Canada's early economy. Above the beaver, the denomination 5 cents is boldly imprinted, asserting the coin's value in the bilingual country. Just beneath, the issuing country name Canada affirms the coin's national origin, and the date 2016 below that roots it in a specific point in time during the long-reigning monarch Queen Elizabeth II's era. Flanking the bottom right of the beaver is the small set of initials KG, standing for George Edward Kruger Gray, the artist who originally designed the beaver motif in 1937. These initials are not merely artist credit, but a connection to the coin's legacy design language. Meanwhile, the edge of the coin is plain smooth, not reeded, consistent with Canadian 5-cent coins since 1982. The coin is made of nickel-plated steel, a decision made for economic reasons and to adapt to changing metal values, reflecting Canada's commitment to practical minting solutions. Turning to the obverse, we find the regal effigy of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, the longest-reigning British monarch at the time. This specific portrait, introduced in 2003 and used until 2023, was created by Canadian artist Susanna Blunt, and it shows a mature and dignified queen without a crown, a significant departure from previous effigies and a reflection of Canada's growing sense of national identity distinct from British imperial iconography. Around the edge of the obverse, the Latin inscription reads Elizabeth to Dei Regina, which stands for Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This honorific echoes Canada's constitutional monarchy and the theological justification of royal rule, a tradition inherited from European monarchies, though the phrase liberté, eaglite, fraternit does not officially appear on Canadian coinage. It is a philosophical nod, perhaps intended to reflect Canadian values of liberty, equality, and fraternity ideals shared with the French Revolution. In this context, its inclusion may also highlight Canada's bilingual and bicultural heritage, where both French and English traditions coexist within the nation's identity. Symbolically, this phrase resonates with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and with national policies promoting multiculturalism and human rights, deeply ingrained in Canada's social and political framework. The inclusion of the term republic is curious, as Canada is not a republic but a constitutional monarchy. However, it may allude metaphorically to civic values or possibly reference a broader philosophical stance on governance, liberty, and the people's role in the state. Additionally, the name La Grafule, or variations such as La Gaufule, appears, not officially associated with the coin, but may reference a mistaken or stylized attribution to Luc La Grafule, a French engraver involved in European coin designs, such as Euro-cent coins. The likely confusion or blend of names underscores the symbolic melting pot nature of Canadian identity, where British monarchy, French Republican ideals, and Indigenous and immigrant contributions all coexist in layered meanings. In cultural terms, the 2016 5-cent coin is a subtle monument to Canadian pluralism. The beaver, one of Canada's national animals, is emblematic of colonial trade and cooperation between Indigenous peoples and European settlers. The Queen's portrait, meanwhile, reflects continuity with Britain and the Commonwealth. The coin's small size belies its significant national symbolism, which speaks volumes in its minimalist aesthetic. It is used widely across the country in everyday commerce, making it one of the most commonly handled pieces of national symbolism. Accessible to all classes and communities, from a numismatic perspective, 2016 5-cent coins are common and not particularly rare in circulated condition. However, uncirculated, proof-like, or specimen versions, particularly those in Royal Canadian Mint sets, are of interest to collectors. The Royal Canadian Mint, based in Ottawa and Winnipeg, mints these coins with high precision and occasionally releases commemorative versions. Although 2016 was not a special anniversary year for the 5-cent denomination, Still, its inclusion in the 2016 uncirculated coin sets and baby gift sets makes it part of a commemorative presentation by default. In educational terms, the coin is a gateway to teaching young Canadians about their country's history, political structure, art, and values. From the Queen's title to the beaver symbol to the bilingual heritage, each element invites inquiry and deeper understanding. Even the materials used, nickel and steel, open discussions about mining, environmental stewardship, and economic pragmatism in Canadian industry. In conclusion, the 2016 Canadian 5-cent coin is far more than a piece of pocket change. It is a miniature cultural artifact embedded with historical, artistic, and political narratives that bridge colonial past and modern identity. Whether viewed as a tool of commerce, an emblem of sovereignty, or a token of national memory, it continues to reflect the values of a dynamic nation. Its Latin inscriptions connected to ancient traditions, its beaver design roots it in North American fauna and trade, and its royal effigy reminds us of Canada's status in the Commonwealth. When interpreted through the lens of ideals like liberté, egalite, fraternité, and even the mistaken yet fascinating cross-references to European engravers like La Griffoul, the coin becomes a rich symbol of pluralism, shared heritage, and collective future. The next up, top 3, the 2002 Canadian 5-cent coin, marking the 50th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's reign 1950 to 2002, is a small yet historically rich piece of currency that commemorates a half-century of monarchical continuity, national growth, and cultural symbolism. Though it retains the standard features of the Canadian nickel, its issuance year carries exceptional significance. On the obverse front, the coin bears the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Dora de Peterhunt, which had been in use since 1990. Surrounding the portrait is the Latin legend Elizabeth to Dei Regina, an abbreviation for Dei Gratia. Regina, meaning by the grace of God, Queen, reflecting Canada's constitutional monarchy and its historical ties to the British Crown. The reverse back of the coin features the classic beaver on a rock, symbolizing Canadian industriousness and its fur trade roots. This image was designed by George Kruger Gray, whose initials K.G. are often seen below the design. The coin's composition in 2002 was predominantly steel with nickel and copper plating, a shift from the previous pure nickel versions, reflecting modern minting practices. The mint mark P indicates its use of multiply plated steel and was part of the Royal Canadian Mint's transition to more cost-efficient coinage. The 2002 nickel doesn't carry any special commemorative design on its reverse, but its date marks a reflective moment in Canadian history. Now, incorporating the phrase liberté, egalite, fraternité, though not officially part of Canadian coinage, symbolizes broader philosophical ideals of freedom, equality, and brotherhood values, often associated with democratic societies and historically rooted in the French Revolution. Their appearance alongside British monarchic references reflects Canada's unique bicultural heritage, influenced by both Anglo and Franco traditions. The term Republic La Griffoul, while not physically present on the coin, may refer metaphorically to the French engraver Dominique La Griffoul, known for his contributions to Euro coin design, tying into the concept of Republican artistry and European numismatic aesthetics. Although not involved in Canadian currency, invoking La Griffoul symbolically links the Canadian nickel to broader international artistic traditions. The 2005 coin is not especially rare in terms of mintage, with millions produced, but it holds numismatic interest due to its symbolic timing and transitionary metal composition. Collectors value high-grade examples, especially those in mint state, for their condition, and they may fetch modest premiums, particularly in certified condition. This coin, therefore, becomes more than mere currency. It serves as a reflection of Canada's monarchy, identity, transition in minting technology, and its cultural duality. The coin remains a tangible link between Canada's royal heritage and its evolution into a modern, multicultural, bilingual democracy. The next up top for the 2012 Canadian 5-cent coin represents a rich blend of national identity, numismatic tradition, and historical continuity, bearing many familiar elements that have become symbolic of Canada's cultural and royal heritage. This particular coin, often referred to simply as the nickel, may appear small in denomination, but it carries profound symbolic and aesthetic significance. On the obverse, it features the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Susanna Blunt, which has been in use since 2003. Her portrait is accompanied by the Latin inscription DG Regina, an abbreviation for Dei Gratia Regina, meaning by the grace of God, Queen, reinforcing Canada's constitutional monarchy and its ties to the British Crown. The name Elizabeth II is also present, identifying the reigning monarch at the time of minting. The reverse design, crafted originally by George Kruger Gray and signified by the initials KG, depicts a beaver perched on a rock, symbolizing the industrious spirit and natural heritage of Canada. The beaver has long been associated with the Canadian fur trade and remains one of Canada's national symbols. Above the beaver is inscribed 5CNTS, denoting the coin's face value, with 2012 below it to mark the year of minting, and Canada proudly displayed as the issuing nation. The coin's physical composition is also worth noting. It is minted in plated steel with layers of nickel and copper, a change introduced in the early 2000s as a cost-saving and environmentally conscious measure by the Royal Canadian Mint. Beyond its immediate design features, this coin reflects broader cultural values. The phrase Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, although not officially part of Canadian coinage, may appear in interpretations or philosophical reflections on values shared by both Canada and France, emphasizing freedom, equality, and fraternity, ideas embraced in many liberal democracies. The mention of republic and the name Lagerfeuille, although not directly linked to this coin, are often associated with artistic or ideological expressions in European coinage, particularly French. However, in the Canadian context, they may be referenced metaphorically or creatively to draw connections between artistic traditions across Francophone cultures. The 2012 5-cent coin continues to be a circulating issue and is generally not considered rare, although coins in uncirculated condition or those included in mint sets may hold higher value to collectors. Its weight is 3.95 grams with a diameter of 21.2 millimeters and a smooth plain edge. Collectors often assess such coins based on strike quality, mint luster, and toning. While millions were produced, making them easily available, a pristine example, with no wear or scratches or tarnish, could appeal to numismatists seeking to complete a year-by-year Canadian nickel collection. This coin is also part of a wider narrative of Canadian monetary evolution. Over time, the nickel has shifted in composition and design but has remained a cornerstone of Canada's circulating currency. Its continued use reflects both tradition and practicality, even as the country moves increasingly toward digital payment systems. The presence of Queen Elizabeth II's image, which remained constant until her passing in 2022, also places this coin within the era of her remarkable 70-year reign, adding historical resonance to the otherwise routine object that in sum, the 2012 Canadian 5-cent coin is a small yet telling artifact of Canadian identity, artistic craftsmanship, and royal symbolism. It may pass from hand to hand unnoticed by many, yet for those who pause to study it, the coin reveals a blend of history, sovereignty, and national pride minted into metal. It holds value not only as currency but also as a cultural emblem of a nation that treasures its heritage while adapting to the present. The next up, top 5, the 2003 Canadian 5-cent coin featuring the inscriptions Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité along with KG, Canada, DG Regina, P, Elizabeth II, Republic, and Lagerfeuille is a fascinating piece that embodies a blend of historical symbolism, artistic heritage, numismatic tradition, and cross-cultural intrigue. Although this particular combination of inscriptions is unusual for official Canadian coinage, which traditionally uses English, French, and Latin elements, such a combination may suggest a token, commemorative coin, fantasy piece, or potentially a misunderstanding caused by conflating elements from different coin types or mints. Regardless, analyzing these elements allows us to delve into multiple historical, cultural, and design layers for educational and numismatic purposes. Design features and symbols. The upper side of the 2003 Canadian 5-cent coin traditionally bears the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Dora de Pederhunt, used from 1990 to 2003, marked by the initials DG Regina, a Latin abbreviation for Dei Gratia Regina, by the grace of God, Queen. The portrait is flanked by the inscription Elizabeth II, representing her official title as Monarch of Canada, a Commonwealth realm. The reverse side of the coin is designed by George Kruger Gray, whose initials KG appear beneath. The central image, this side displays the iconic North American beaver seated on a log, a national symbol of Canadian industriousness, resilience, and nature. Above the beaver are the large numerals 5C and TS, denoting the coin's face value, and the country name Canada, along with the date 2003. The beaver design dates back to 1937 and has remained a mainstay of Canadian nickels ever since. The mint mark P on the 2003 coin represents the Royal Canadian Mint's plated steel composition, introduced in the early 2000s to cut costs and enhance magnetic sorting capabilities in vending machines. This composition includes a steel core plated with nickel and a small copper layer. In some cases, coin specifications full 5 cents head composition, nickel-plated steel weight, 3.95 grams diameter, 21.2 medge, smooth plain obverse design. Queen Elizabeth II by Dora de Pederhunt reverse design. Beaver on a log by G. Kruger Gray, initials K, G mint mark, P indicating plated steel composition. The phrase Liberté, Egalite, Fraternite, which translates to liberty, equality, brotherhood, is famously associated with the French Republic and the values of the French Revolution. This motto does not officially appear on Canadian currency, but its inclusion here may suggest a misattribution, where elements of French coins like the 1 franc or euro cents designed by Laurence Lagerfeuille are being mixed with Canadian coin. Descriptions: a fantasy coin, medallion, or error token blending multiple symbolic and linguistic traditions, a collector's commemorative issue possibly created for symbolic or educational purposes outside the official minting system. Additionally, the mention of Republic and the artist Lagerfeuille, a known French designer responsible for some euro coin designs, hints at a mix-up with French coins, such as the French 20 euro cent coins that bear the design by Laurence Lagerfeuille, featuring Marianne, a personification of the French Republic. From a numismatic standpoint, an authentic Canadian 5-cent coin from 2003 does not feature the motto Liberté, Egalite, Fraternite, nor does it bear the name Lagerfeuille or the word Republic. These elements belong to French numismatics, and their combination here may be either artistic license or a misidentified reproduction. If such a coin with these markings exists physically, it could be a collector's novelty item, mint error, or overstruck coin, a hybrid fantasy coin, a token, or altered piece created for symbolic representations. Pieces, especially if unique or artistically rendered, can be of interest to private collectors, though their monetary value would depend on market demand, rarity, and provenance. Market value and rarity. Standard 2003 Canadian 5-cent coin in circulation condition holds minimal monetary value beyond its face 5 cents. Though in uncirculated MS65 plus or proof-like condition, it can fetch 20 cents to $2. CAD depending on quality, mint packaging, and demand. If your coin includes non-standard inscriptions or foreign design elements like Lagerfeuille or Liberté, Egalite, Fraternite, its value becomes subjective and speculative, determined by how rare or desirable it is among novelty or fantasy coin collectors. In conclusion, a coin marked with Liberté, Egalite, Fraternite minus 5 cents to 03 kg, Canadadg, Regina, P. Elizabeth II, Republic, Lagerfeuille would represent a cultural and artistic blend of Canadian and French numismatic traditions, intentionally or accidentally. While the authentic 2003 Canadian nickel carries historical continuity in design and purpose, the introduction of French revolutionary slogans and foreign artist references suggests either an imaginative fusion piece or a misunderstanding of its origin. Such a coin encourages collectors to study coins with a critical eye, examining both their mint authenticity and their symbolic meanings. Whether you are a casual collector or a serious numismatist, this kind of object stimulates curiosity about political history, artistic expression, national identity, and the evolving language of money through the centuries. The next up, top 6. The 1976 Canadian 5-cent coin, etched in nickel and steeped in the legacy of both imperial and democratic ideologies, stands not merely as currency, but as a storied relic of Canada's evolving identity. On its reverse, we see the distinctive engraving of the beaver, an enduring emblem of Canada's industrious spirit, resting atop a log, masterfully designed by George Kruger Gray, whose initials KG are subtly inscribed beneath the scene. This image, introduced in 1937, symbolizes the unity between human progress and the natural world, a harmony echoed in the French Revolutionary motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, which, while not inscribed on Canadian coins, resonates deeply through the democratic ideals that Canada has adopted from both French and British traditions. The coin's denomination, 5 cents, and country name, Canada, are boldly emblazoned above and below the image, together with the date 1976, a year of notable significance, as it marked the Montreal Summer Olympics and a growing awareness of Quebec nationalism. On the obverse, the dignified profile of Queen Elizabeth II faces right, sculpted with refinement by Arnold Machen. Her portrayal here is crowned and elegant, framed by the Latin inscription, Elizabeth to D.G. Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This formula harks back to monarchical authority, yet its presence on a Canadian coin circulated in a multicultural, bilingual democracy reveals a subtle tension between colonial heritage and sovereign independence. By 1976, Canada was well into its journey of national assertion, having adopted its own flag in 1965 and celebrated its centennial in 1967. Yet the Queen remained a powerful symbol of continuity and constitutional order. The minting of this coin during a decade of national transformation offers a compelling dialogue between tradition and change. The physical specifications of the coin reinforce its utilitarian and symbolic nature. Struck from nickel, with a diameter of 21.2 millimeters and a weight of 4.54 grams, the coin bears a smooth edge and a standard round shape, practical for daily use yet enduring in composition. Its luster, when uncirculated, reflects a silvery sheen, but in circulation it often dulls. It's where a record of hands pass through, of economies and lives interwoven. While not rare in mintage, with tens of millions struck at the Royal Canadian Mint, the 1976 issue holds historical allure, especially for collectors seeking to commemorate a politically charged era. What makes the 1976 Canadian 5-cent coin especially intriguing when interpreted through the Lagerfeld philosophical lens, a stylized narrative merging Republican ideals and symbolic heritages, its embodiment of layered sovereignty? The concept of republic in this context is not literal, but rather thematic. Though Canada remains a constitutional monarchy, the spirit of republicanism, government by the people, national self-determination, social equality seeps through the fabric of the coin's cultural identity, much like Jean-Pierre Lagerfeld's artistic ethos, which champions human dignity and symbolic universality. This coin invites contemplation on national values and their representation in tangible forms. The Queen's portrait, set against the backdrop of beaver iconography, becomes a dialogue of two nations, French and English, Crown and Commons, past and future. The year 1976 too was rich with symbolic moments. The Montreal Olympics, Canada's first Olympic Games, were not only a point of national pride, but also a flashpoint for debates over cost, identity, and inclusivity, echoing the motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité. That very year also saw increased momentum for Quebec's sovereignty movement, which challenged federal authority and raised profound questions about language, culture, and governance. The 5-cent coin, circulated freely in both French and English-speaking provinces, became an unintentional messenger of national unity, a small yet potent object navigating complex waters. In closing, the 1976 Canadian 5-cent coin is a multifaceted artifact, economically modest but historically rich. It serves as a numismatic canvas that captures the spirit of a country balancing monarchy and democracy, colonial memory and Republican aspiration. Its metallic surface mirrors a nation in the midst of defining its path not by breaking with tradition, but by reinterpreting it through the prism of inclusion and sovereignty. Through the lens of Lagerfeld's symbolic abstraction, this coin is no longer just a token of exchange, it is a bearer of memory, identity, and quiet revolution. It whispers not only of queen and country, but of citizens, languages, and aspirations, of beavers and builders, liberty and law, struggle and solidarity. Every nickel spent in 1976 was, perhaps unknowingly, a vote cast in the story of a nation's becoming.